Have you ever asked yourself, what if everything you thought made someone spiritual, the temples, the titles, the books, the followers, was actually a distraction? You're not alone. In a world obsessed with show, credentials, and public applause, we've quietly drifted from essence to ego, especially in spirituality. Today, we're inviting you to press pause on the noise. If you're listening on your commute, pop your headphones in, not just for sound, but to block out the world for a moment. If you're at home, maybe settle in with a cuppa, turn the lights a bit lower. Get still. Be here, fully. Because what you're about to hear isn't just another podcast. It's a conversation between two colleagues, Arjun and Maya, questioning the foundations of modern spiritual practices, exposing harsh truth, and reevaluating what it means to live and serve authentically. You'll uncover the difference between real guidance and spiritual showmanship. You'll question the temples we build, the disciples we collect, and the pain we ignore. It'll be raw, at times uncomfortable, but deeply transformative. And by the end, you may never look at spiritual leadership or even your own beliefs the same way again. Let's begin.
So, this started off as a coffee break, and somehow we're knee-deep into the philosophy of discipleship, temple construction, and the dangers of spiritual showboating. Not quite what I expected for a Tuesday morning at the office, Arjun.
Aye, Maya. But you know what they say. Truth doesn't check the calendar. It just knocks. And when I reread this section, it's like it slapped me out of a comfortable slumber, especially the bit about not accepting unfit disciples. That's not just a line. That's a dagger through half the nonsense we see in the name of spirituality today.
I'm gonna be honest, when I first heard that, it felt a bit elitist. Who's to say who's fit or unfit? Isn't the whole point of devotion that everyone gets a chance, regardless of their starting point?
That's a brilliant question. And honestly, that tension is what makes this teaching so sharp and vital. It's not about judging someone's worth, Maya. It's about discernment. Think of it like this. If a teacher hands a piece of complex music to someone who doesn't even know scales yet, that's not opportunity. That's sabotage. In the same way, if a spiritual teacher takes on disciples for prestige, ego, or crowd building, without first seeing whether the seeker is sincere, it's spiritual negligence.
So it's more about protecting the journey rather than gatekeeping it.
Exactly. See, in the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada Muni tells Yudhishthira that a true renunciate, a sannyasi, must never accept a disciple who's not genuinely seeking Krishna consciousness. And here's where it gets deep. The cost isn't just the disciple's confusion. It's the fall of the teacher. When people take on followers for the wrong reasons, status, power, comfort, they get tangled. And once that starts, Krishna consciousness becomes a brand, not a path.
But didn't Lord Chaitanya also say to speak about Krishna consciousness everywhere, to everyone? Doesn't that feel a bit contradictory?
That's the nuance. Lord Chaitanya's mercy is boundless. He did urge us to spread the teachings far and wide, but he never said to manufacture disciples or preach for personal gain. That's where the intention matters. If someone approaches with sincerity, even if they're imperfect, the sannyasi can take a risk, because transformation can happen. But if it's just crowd-pleasing and ego-massaging, that's spiritual suicide.
Wow, so even in preaching, it's not just about how many listen, but why you're speaking. I've honestly never thought of it that way. It makes me rethink a lot of those massive public events, spiritual festivals where it's more about the lights and social media than inner clarity.
Mate, same. It's confronting. And it leads right into the next bit, the warning against being overly enthusiastic about building temples.
Now that one really threw me. I mean, aren't temples sacred? Why would that be discouraged?
Here's where people get it twisted. It's not about not having temples. It's about why and how they're built. The original acharyas in Lord Chaitanya's line, people like Rupa Goswami, they weren't in a rush to build structures. They focused on preaching first. Temples were built only if a sincere devotee came forward, eager to serve with their resources. Even then, it wasn't about personal comfort. It was purely for serving the deity, spreading knowledge, and nurturing the community.
So the temple wasn't the goal, but the byproduct of devotion?
Exactly that. But nowadays, and I'm saying this as someone who's seen it firsthand, some so-called gurus chase wealthy donors just to live in comfort, have a few posh marble halls, and give token lectures. The temples become status symbols, not places of transformation. And that's dangerous.
I feel like this conversation's peeling back a lot of what I assumed was just part of the spiritual package. Massive temples, charismatic leaders, tons of books. Speaking of books, it also says not to be overly eager to read everything out there. What's the danger in that?
You're on fire today, Maya. That's a crucial one. So the point isn't to be ignorant, it's to be focused. If you've got access to the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and Nectar of Devotion, you've got the purest, most distilled wisdom already. Diving into dozens of other books can become a kind of intellectual vanity project. Look how well read I am. But what's the point if your heart hasn't softened and your ego hasn't shrunk?
Wow. So it's like chasing knowledge without transformation? That hits hard, especially in this age where content is everywhere. Maybe people confuse information with realization?
Exactly that. Real devotion is about heart, not just head. And that leads into something powerful. The instruction from Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati: don't build costly temples, print books, disseminate truth, not buildings.
That's brilliant. It's almost rebellious. Print books, not pillars.
You've got a knack for this. And here's the next thing, Maya: emotional stability. The Padma Purana says, if you're thrown off by loss or anger, if your heart's consumed by lamentation, Krishna won't manifest there.
That's such a high bar, Arjun. I mean, who doesn't get upset by loss?
Of course, we all do. But the teaching isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about mastery, not suppression. The mind will flicker, that's its nature, but a devotee keeps bringing it back to Krishna. The idea is, even when things go sideways, the internal compass should point back to divine consciousness. That's the training.
That reminds me of something you said last week about spiritual life being more about direction than perfection. So even if you're shaken, as long as you're realigning,
You're still on the path. Exactly. That's the kind of maturity the text calls for. Straightforwardness in dealings, balance in gain and loss. These aren't just values, they're weapons against illusion.
there's also that section on demigods. I thought Vaishnavas don't worship anyone but Krishna, so why show respect to others?
That's a brilliant cultural point. So yes, Vaishnavas worship only Krishna, but they respect everyone, even demigods like Lord Shiva and Brahma. It's like, imagine you're working at a company. You report directly to the CEO, but that doesn't mean you disrespect senior managers. Same here. They're powerful servants of the Lord, and recognizing that keeps your heart humble. Arrogance ruins devotion faster than any mistake.
I love that. It's humility, not exclusivity. So no ego, no spiritual snobbery.
Spot on. And finally, Maya, the part that's most neglected, but possibly the most urgent: not giving pain to any living being. That line from the Mahabharata is haunting. Treat everyone like a loving father would his children. That level of care, compassion, it's rare, even among the so-called spiritual elite.
And yet we have spiritual people who walk past beggars, fund temple interiors while animals are slaughtered down the road, who gossip and hurt with words.
Exactly. And that's the hypocrisy this teaching cuts through. Real spirituality isn't in robes or rituals. It's in the refusal to cause pain, even mentally. That's the test.
Arjun, I have to say, this entire conversation, it's left me a bit shaken, but in the best way. I feel like we've scraped off layers of illusion I didn't even know I had.
Same here. This is what truth does. It confronts, cleanses, and calls us higher. But remember, it's not about guilt. It's about clarity. And once we see clearly, we can't go back.
You know what really lands, Arjun? It's that silent expectation most of us have, that external success in spiritual circles must be a sign of inner depth. Like, oh, he's got a big temple, thousands of followers, speaks at global conferences. Surely he must be advanced. But from what we've unpacked here, it seems that could be exactly where someone's most vulnerable to fall.
That's the illusion, Maya. And it's so subtle, especially in our current age. We equate visibility with authenticity. But the real test is internal. How detached are they? How humble? How surrendered? Not how many retweets or rings on their finger.
And what you said earlier about printing books instead of building temples really shifted something in me. It's so countercultural. Like, who'd think the real service is to quietly fund or translate a scripture instead of cutting a ribbon at some marble fortress?
Exactly. That's why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was so radical. He called out that ego. He said, don't waste time building palaces of stone when the world needs palaces of truth. It's not that temples are bad, But when they become vanity projects, or worse, a revenue machine, they take us away from the core purpose of spiritual life, awakening love for Krishna.
Do you think that's why sometimes you meet people who've been in the movement for years but still seem cold, controlling, even a bit arrogant?
Unfortunately, yeah. It's that dangerous mix of knowledge without surrender. Like spiritual cholesterol, builds up over time, blocks the flow, and eventually the heart chokes. That's why the text emphasized devotion, not decoration. It's not about how much you know, but how much you love, how you serve, how little pain you cause.
That last part really got to me about not giving pain to any living being. Even the idea that mental cruelty, things we say in passive-aggressive comments or the way we shut someone down, that's also incompatible with real devotion. Whew.
It's sobering, isn't it? We live in a society that's vocal about animal rights, but quietly tolerates emotional violence daily, in homes, offices, even temples. But the Mahabharata is crystal clear. If you disturb another soul, you distance yourself from God. Full stop.
So then compassion isn't an optional add-on, it's core. If your path doesn't make you softer, more loving, more careful about how others feel, it's not working.
Bang on. And here's the clincher. All this ties back to the straightforwardness bit from the Padma Purana. You can't be playing games. No manipulation, no passive aggression, just clarity, simplicity, truthfulness. Even in tough moments. That's where real spiritual strength shows.
So it's a path that demands inner austerity more than outer symbols. It's easier to shave your head than to shave off envy. Easier to wear saffron than to wear humility.
Maya, that's gold. Yes, that's the shift we need. Outer rituals can be done robotically, but inner growth, that's the real sacrifice. And it often doesn't look flashy. It's in those quiet moments, choosing not to retaliate, not to take credit, not to judge.
You know, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, like, am I ever gonna get there? But then I remember what you said earlier. It's not about perfection. It's about returning to consciousness again and again.
That's the mood. Every sincere step counts. Krishna doesn't look for finished products. He responds to effort, to sincerity. Even if we fall short, if the intention is pure, the mercy flows.
And that part about the sannyasi sometimes accepting an unfit disciple out of risk, that gave me hope that even when we're not fully ready, if we come with sincerity, the right teacher might still take a chance on us.
Yes, and that's where the real compassion of this tradition shines. It's not rigid, it's dynamic. A qualified spiritual master in the Lord Chaitanya's line will sometimes stretch, not out of pride, but out of mercy, because they see the spark even if it's buried, and they water it.
I love that. It's like the rules are firm, but love can make exceptions when it serves the soul.
Beautifully put. But we have to remember, those exceptions are made for transformation, not for convenience. If we're not changing, we're just pretending.
So, circling back, if I'm someone listening to this and I'm seeing all these patterns in myself or in my community, what's the first step? How do I start living this truth?
Honestly, drop the noise. Start with one book. Bhagavad Gita is more than enough to begin. Read with intention, not performance. Ask yourself, am I becoming more humble, more forgiving, less reactive? If not, then slow down. Also, seek out real guidance, not charisma, not crowds. Look for clarity, consistency, character.
And if someone's already following a teacher or organization that seems more about buildings, books, and brands,
then be honest. Ask, is this bringing me closer to the essence? And have the courage to pivot if needed. No spiritual path should demand the sacrifice of your conscience.
that's powerful. No guilt, just growth.
Exactly. And remember, Maya, the true devotee doesn't need applause, stages, or temples. They just need a heart pointed towards Krishna and a life that reflects it.
You've given me a lot to think about, Arjun. Like, properly reflect. I feel like I've been looking through a dusty window and suddenly someone just cleaned the glass.
That's the magic of real dialogue in it. When we strip the layers, go beyond what's trending, and ask, what's true? It's vulnerable, but it's where the light gets in.
Thank you. Genuinely. This conversation, it wasn't just informative, it felt like medicine.
Likewise, Maya. We're all just trying to remember what we already know, and conversations like this bring us home.
We told you at the beginning this wasn't going to be just another conversation. And now you felt it. The promise was simple: a fresh perspective, hidden truths revealed, and a chance to question the spiritual illusions we've grown too comfortable with. If you're still here, you've taken that journey. And hopefully, like Maya, you're seeing through a clearer lens. Now, if someone came to mind while you listened, a friend, a seeker, a colleague, share this episode. It's not just a video, it's a gift of clarity they might not even know they need. Drop your thoughts in the comments, not for the algorithm, but to become part of this living archive. Each word you write might become the exact line someone else needs to read. Hit like, not just because you enjoyed it, but to tell yourself, I value growth. I choose truth. And finally, subscribe, not for updates, but to join a movement of conscious listeners, thinkers, and changemakers. We're not here to just talk. We're here to remember what matters. Until next time, be kind, be clear, and keep walking home.
Explore more reflections on love, surrender, and the divine. Watch the next video or subscribe for deeper journeys.
Love is not the end. It's the way.